Dishonored was developed lovingly by Arcane Studios and published by Bethesda way back in 2012 when Bethesda were absolutely peaking in the eyes of most gamers before those fans very quickly turned on Bethesda. Dishonored still remains an absolute classic though. Playing as the infamous character Corvo, I wanted to see how that 2012 game fares in today's plethora of mediocrity, and what do you get when you mess with Corvo?
What do you get when you mess with Corvo? Kicked in the balls and dragged round Dunwall, eaten by rats in a dirty place, one blink and you'll get stabbed, bitch. What do you get when you mess with Corvo? Kicked in the balls and dragged round Dunwall, eaten by rats in a dirty place, one blink and you'll get stabbed, bitch.
Set in the dark and dreary plague-ridden fictional city of Dunwall, the setting takes inspiration from 1800s London and has been sent into chaos due to a plague which is devouring the city's population. As well as the disease, there's been a rise of criminal activity in the form of corruption at the highest governing levels. Theft and murder are regular occurrences at the low-level street gangs thanks to the unrest of the plague and the valuable resource known as whale oil. Now, whale oil is a newly discovered fuel that's used to power the city and has created a variety of street governing security methods and powerful weaponry at the hands of the corrupt government. We play as the silent protagonist Corvo Eterno, the bodyguard of Dunwall's Empress Jessamine Coldwin, and within the first few minutes of the game, Corvo is framed for the murder of the Empress and spends the entirety of the game fighting to clear his name alongside a resistance group who call themselves the Loyalists. Corvo also needs to rescue the daughter of the Empress and now rightful heir to the throne, young Emily Coldwin, who's voiced by a young and very innocent Chloe Moretz, by the way.
Okay, you cunts. Let's see what you can do now.
After escaping prison, the gameplay loop starts at the Hound's Pit pub, which acts as the base of the Loyalists as well as a hub for you to use between missions. You'll be briefed on each upcoming mission here, as well as having the options to top up on ammunition, upgrade your weapons with blueprints that you found out in the streets of Dunwall, and freely explore the close proximity of the pub, finding all the little secrets and bits of lore. From there you'll jump on a boat to coast the rivers of Dunwall to start your next mission. Now, the level design was and still is one of Dishonored's many strong points. It's almost an Arcane signature now, with the games they've released since Dishonored getting better and better in the level design department. The verticality and massively varying choices of approach to your next target is always so fulfilling to find. I always find myself constantly double backing on myself just to explore every possible option, because the front door is always the most boring, with it being the most obvious path to take as well as being the most guarded route to take. Finding that little hole in the wall, a grate into the sewers, or scaling the wall to slip through an apartment bedroom to appear at an advantageous point of entry always had me feeling like a master of espionage. Now, what is probably the strongest factor in Dishonored is the flexibility and fluidity of Corvo as he leaps, darts, flashes and sneaks his way through each level. The sheer satisfaction from bolting across 3 rooftops, hopping on top of a lamppost to leap down and plunge your sword into the enemy's collarbone has got to be up there with some of the most refining gameplay mechanics of its generation. These abilities of Corvo aren't the norm in Dunwall though, as they've been gifted to Corvo by a mysterious, unsettling figure known as the Outsider. Now, the Outsider brands Corvo with his mark, and with this mark comes the superhuman skills. Corvo can flash across huge distances, possess the minds of animals and eventually humans, bend time to his will, fire a powerful blast of wind out of the palm of his hand, summon a deadly man-eating swarm of rats, as well as enhancing his vision, giving Corvo the ability to see through walls. Now, these abilities are fantastic to execute, but the enhanced vision is something I've found more and more OP in games as time's progressed and as the industries move forward, making some games feel almost too easy. Having it as optional would be preferable. Wherever possible, I'd try to peek through the door's keyhole rather than use my dark vision to see what exactly is waiting for me on the other side of that door. All of Corvo's abilities will need unlocking as you progress and aren't completely free to use either. Corvo's got the 2 basic bars to manage, his health bar and his mana bar, which is the fuel to utilise his magical powers. In Corvo's hunt to clear his name and rescue young Lady Emily, you're very kindly given the option to immerse yourself into the role of a vengeful, mass-murdering lunatic, a merciful, unidentifiable ghost, or even a blend of the two. Personally, I recommend a blend of the two because some of the best skills really lend themselves towards aggressive gameplay. gameplay, whereas the traversing mechanics of Corvo really lend themselves towards a stealthy playstyle instead. At the end of each mission, you're given the option to replay that mission and take a look at the statistics that you've clocked up. One statistic that has no number associated with it though is chaos. Now the chaos level is scored as either low, medium or high and is measured by the path of death and destruction left in Corvo's wake. The more people you kill, the higher the chaos level goes, and each chaos level results in varying amounts of rats that swarm the streets, plague infected citizens, and it also has an impact on the game's ending too. If I've not made it already abundantly clear, the amount of replayability that's on offer in this game, it's through the roof, and it's a big reason for me revisiting this little gem on an almost annual basis. On top of all the otherworldly magical enhancements bursting out of Corvo's left fingertips, he'll rain down an equal amount of terror on his enemies with a little more industrial equipment, such as his trusty sword or pistol, grenades, both sticky and non-sticky, a crossbow firing lethal and non-lethal bolts, and spring razors, which are handheld placeable mines that once triggered, they'll entangle the enemy's razor wire, ripping them into chunks. The tools are pretty simplistic to use, but even today, for a 2012 game, I'm still pretty impressed with the swordplay mechanics. First-person melee combat still seems a difficult mechanic to master for a lot of developers, but I really enjoy it in Dishonored. It's a basic feature, having the player timing their blocks, and we're afforded a generous window to execute it, but it's still so much more than your basic hacking and slashing. As well as the wide array of weaponry, Corvo can get a little tactical with his approach, using a rewiring tool, turning the guard's security protocols against them. These are scientific protocols such as gates of electricity known as walls of light, arc pylons which are unmanned electric bolt firing turrets, and then there's the watchtowers that survey the area, unloading incendiary bolts at anything that's caught in its gaze. All of these can be turned against the enemy by following the machine's cables that lead to its circuitry box, or alternatively, Corvo can just turn them off entirely by unhooking the machine's whale oil canister. Scattered around the hardest to reach areas of Dunwall though are runes and bone charms. Now runes are basically level up points which can be put towards upgrading Corvo's enhancements, and bone charms are perks such as increased health, move faster while carrying bodies, or the disgusting ability to eat white rats to regain some mana, just to name a few. These runes and bone charm locations can be exposed by the inventive and pretty grotesque, fleshy, steampunk heart that was gifted to Corvo by the outsider. The heart will beat faster and stronger as you approach a rune or a bone charm, and triggering the heart itself will whisper the town's dirty little secrets into Corvo's ear. It's such a grim but cool idea, taking the phrase "follow your heart" to a whole new level. Playing today, the gameplay is still incredibly innovative and so enjoyable. The option to take it slow with calm and calculated movements, or simply going in full pelt running and gunning, is so refreshing, and both styles have been refined to a standard that's still standing strong over a decade later. I'd still say the weapon use in combat, namely your gun and your crossbow, do feel a little dated now. It doesn't quite feel as tight as I've grown to expect from FPS games, but still though, the 1-2 hit combo of your right hand, left hand fighting style is something I've always enjoyed since BioShock, and is still feeling strong in Dishonored, even by today's standards. When it comes to the visuals, they have inevitably started to age, but only slightly. Arcane employed a pastel cel shading art style that is seen in games like Borderlands, which in my opinion are always more likely to hold their value even as graphics engines progress, purely because Dishonored makes no attempt to be a photorealistic game. The stunning cel shading approach of Dishonored, it adds years to the game, and just like a painting, it hides its age really well. There's still the odd technical issue like draw distance eyesores with billboard houses off into the distance looking flat and very pixelated, but some of the character visuals and the more immediate environments still look surprisingly crisp. Couple these visuals standing the test of time alongside fantastic audio such as the quick thuds and whoosh of Corvo darting across rooftop gaps, the clanging of swords crossing, as well as the macabre and atmospheric soundtrack. For me, this game is a genuine classic, a real game changer at the time, and a change so good that the genre hasn't been hugely improved upon since its release. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Dishonored though. What are your memories of it most importantly, and have you played it recently? Let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next one.